Elon's been doing really a fantastic job. He suffers a little bit because of it. People go after him, but actually, I think in the end it'll maybe reverse itself and be just the opposite. That's happened before. When I saw what was happening with this, the concerted effort by I think they're paid agitators. When somebody stands up and fights, their business ends up doubling. You can see that. Just a little example. Goya Foods, he was just a wonderful man, the owner and the family.
This tariff is inexplicable and harmful to our national security interests, said John Bolton, Trump's own former national security advisor. When the guy Trump hired to keep America safe is sounding the alarm, maybe we should listen. Trump claims these tariffs protect American jobs, but Ukrainian steel makes up less than 1% of U.S. imports. That's like putting sunscreen on during a hurricane and claiming you're solving the problem. The real story here is much more concerning, and you won't believe who's celebrating this move. Trump has just put a tariff of 25% on steel exports from Ukraine, which comes at a time when the country is struggling to survive in Russia. Absolutely, everything you have read is accurate. He is punishing the nation that we are supposed to be supporting. Put yourself in the position of someone who is wearing a life jacket and then puncturing it at the same time. Simply put, this is the situation that is taking place. In the present time, it is highly probable that Vladimir Putin is merrily dancing in the Kremlin, while officials from Ukraine are flinging phones across rooms and European leaders are fuming with anger. Just to be clear, the most important suggestion that Trump has for helping Ukraine is to tax them. It would be the same as promising to move someone and then removing their furniture after you've already moved them. Hey buddy, I'll help you fight off that burglar by taking your wallet. Folks, you need to make it make sense. The 25% tax that President Trump imposed on steel and aluminum imports from Ukraine is completely ludicrous when one considers the actual numbers. Less than 1% of the steel market in the United States is procured from Ukraine. Just 1%.
There's people that they tend to go after one group or another, but basically it's the other. They go after conservatives, and we're cutting numbers that nobody's ever seen before. Doge, as we call it affectionately. You've been all hearing that term a lot. And he fought back, and it ended up that he ended up tripling his business, and it's today a much bigger business than it was before. And there are many examples of that, and maybe it's going to be that way with Elon.
In the same way that you would be concerned about a mosquito in your kitchen, you would also be concerned about a grizzly bear. Clearly, the objective of this is not to safeguard the employment opportunities available in the United States. Rather, it is a sledgehammer to Ukraine that barely moves the needle for our economy. While everything is going on, Ukraine is engaged in a struggle with Russia for its very existence. Their cities are being assaulted, they are having difficulties keeping the lights on, and they are experiencing a shortage of ammo. All of these things are happening simultaneously. Do you know what our orange pal does for a living? As they are lying on the ground, they are kicked. Donnie, it was a highly advanced maneuver on your part. The leaders of Europe are going utterly nuts as a result of this. A shocking betrayal of Western unity, as stated by the Chancellor of Germany, and economic warfare against an ally, as said by the President of France about the situation. As someone who, on average, likes Donald Trump more than he likes his own toothbrush, Boris Johnson even went so far as to call the tariffs morally indefensible. In the event that Boris Johnson considers that you have gone too far, it might be time to take stock of your life or circumstances. One of the defense ministers in Ukraine was so shocked by the news that he threw his phone across the room when he heard it. Is he to blame for this? Approximately 30% of Ukraine's total exports to the United States consist of steel and metals. For the sake of, avoiding an invasion, they really need that money. As far as I can tell, the timing could not possibly be any worse. The Ukrainian military is already going through a difficult time on the battlefield, and they are also experiencing a lack of supplies. It is the same as telling someone who has a broken leg that they should try to run a marathon while they are using crutches that they've stolen from them. The assurances made by Trump that this is intended to protect employment opportunities in the United States are as genuine as his hair. It should come as no surprise that this is about something quite different. Considering that the official Russian media is so enthusiastic about all of this, it is much more suspect than it would otherwise be. These charges are essentially a party that they are throwing for themselves. The Americans have finally shown their true colors. Ukraine is merely a pawn in their game, a Russian television host said with extreme joy. The Americans have finally shown their true colors. When the media apparatus of Putin praises your policy, should this be interpreted as a warning sign? Despite appearances to the contrary, it seems like President Trump is prepping Ukraine for a supposedly peace deal that would require them to hand up territory to Russia. It is not the intention to impose tariffs. Rather, the objective is to make Ukraine so desperate that it would give up. Who is it that benefits from that? It is not the United States of America. It's not Ukraine. The lone man riding a horse without a shirt was Vladimir. He was the only one. Do you have any idea what is peculiar? When the actions you take generate more happiness for your alleged adversary than they do for your alleged ally. But Trump possesses a special talent in that regard. You can think of him as being comparable to that friend of yours who is always there to defend the person who just made fun of you at the party. Trump has a long and odd history of engaging in activities that, for some reason, are perceived to be beneficial to Russia. He went from calling Putin a genius for invading Ukraine to relying on Russia's word over his own intelligence services in Helsinki. He did this after he had previously referred to Putin as a genius. At the same time that they are fighting for their life, he is exerting pressure on the economy of Ukraine. Could this be a coincidence? Certainly not, in my view. That is what it is like to see someone who claims they despise chocolate with Hershey's syrup all over their face. There are certain parallels that are extremely worrisome that are being made here by military analysts. The purpose of this tariff ploy is to first destabilize the Ukrainian economy, then to suspend the provision of military assistance, and last to exert pressure on the Ukrainian government to agree to terms that will result in the loss of their sovereignty. There is a famous Russia expert named Dr. Fiona Hill who believes that the tariffs send a clear signal to Moscow that Ukraine is being softened up for negotiations where they will have minimal leverage. In a poker game, it is comparable to informing someone that you will reveal them your cards before the game begins. John Bolton, who served as Trump's national security advisor in the past, referred to these tariffs as inexplicable and harmful to our national security interests. It is clear that you have gone too far when even Bolton is of the opinion that you are being excessively punitive. It would be the same as if the Grinch were to inform you that you are having an excessively nasty attitude during the holiday season. The psychological impact on Ukrainian forces is significant as a result of this. Put yourself in a situation where you are fighting and losing your life while simultaneously questioning if your most trusted ally is actually working with your foe. What's more dangerous than suffering a loss on the battlefield is that, even though it is being mocked by Russian propaganda, Ukrainian soldiers are legitimately wondering, is the United States of America abandoning us? Senator Mitt Romney, who is a member of the Republican Party, has also expressed his objection to this measure. Because this is essentially a poor idea and not a matter of party politics, the criticism is coming from both sides of the political spectrum. Similar to slathering ketchup on top of ice cream. Regardless of the political beliefs that you hold, there are certain things that are without a doubt inappropriate. To tell you the truth, this peace deal that Trump is pursuing would effectively mean that Russia gets what it wants, Ukraine loses land, and Trump gets to say that he ended the war without actually resolving any concerns. Let's face it, when it comes to geopolitics, this is effectively the same as giving the bully your lunch money and stating that you are exercising conflict resolution. The bully, on the other hand, is in possession of nuclear weapons, and the land it occupies is Ukrainian territory. Here we are, witnesses to the first act of Trump's peace show in which Russia emerges victorious and Ukraine suffers defeat, and Trump, for some reason, anticipates that we will celebrate. This tactic is a surrender technique, but it is being presented as diplomacy. The worst of the worst? Those Ukrainian soldiers who are currently fighting for their lives feel as though they have been completely betrayed by a nation that they had expected to be on their side. When your economic plan causes your allies to become furious and Putin to be thrilled, there is a lot of trouble going on. Not only does that not make sense, but it is also like presenting fish sticks flavored with chocolate. The tariffs in question do not serve to safeguard jobs in the United States. The Ukraine is undercutting help at a time when it is most in need of guidance. Despite the fact that he is playing for Team Russia, it appears that Trump is wearing an American jersey. Colonel John Spencer made the observation that cutting off economic lifelines inevitably leads to military inferiority, which in turn makes the loss of land necessary. What is the real story? At this point, Ukraine has taken the initial step toward relinquishing its territory. These tariffs are illogical, thus that is not the question that has to be answered. The question that concerns us is who Trump is genuinely working for. It's not us, so don't be concerned.